Shoot. Oh, and here I thought I was going to start this video out smoothly. Okay. Hello, subscribers, patrons, family, fans, followers, supporters, and generally anybody who happens to stumble across my videos. This is Johnston Blackhorse, the one and only, and I welcome you to another Johnston Blackhorse sketchbook tour. Before we begin, if you want to support the creation of more videos like this, drawing tutorials and sketchbook tours, I do have a Patreon. Actually, where is it? There it is. Forgot to turn that on. Oh, smooth Blackhorse, really smooth. But yeah, the web address is in the top left. As you can see, patreon.com/Johnston Blackhorse. And is that all it is? Yeah. that's it. And yeah, check it out. There's a lot of free artwork there. You can click around, just take a look. And if you like what you see, then consider clicking that Become a Patron button. And when you do, you gain access to patron-only content in the form of full resolution downloads of the free images that you can see throughout my various other um, uh, art website accounts. You can check out my autobiographical blog, Johnston Blackhorse, the one and only .blogspot.com. There's a lot of free artwork there. And a lot of the free artwork there, the high resolution versions, are available on my Patreon to patrons only after you click that button. Also, I'm a member of DeviantArt for Affinity Ink Bunny, and all those links are also in this section below. And if Patreon's not your thing, I also have a GoFundMe. Any donations would be greatly appreciated, especially at this point. I'll probably make another video after I'm done with this sketchbook tour, just to get more into that, what I'm currently going through. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get this sketchbook tour started. And as I stated before in my my previous sketchbook tour, was that I had stumbled across, just kind of like flipping through my other sketches here and there, and I realized that my prison sketchbook was here. Now this is the actual prison sketchbook. This was a fully bound sketchbook that was created by another inmate while I was in prison, and he had built it from composite materials that he had found in and throughout the facility. But seeing as how doing so without approval will just label it contraband, I had to keep this sketchbook pretty hidden. And the reason he gave it to me is that he saw that I would just kind of sketch around and everything, just doodling here and there. So he decided to just, you know what, I'll give this guy this sketchbook, and he'll find more use for it than I ever did. And so he handed it to me and just gave it to me. And also he was leaving the facility, he had done his time, so he was on his way out. So that's another reason why he just went ahead and gave it to me. So I sketched in the whole darn thing, and the thing is I couldn't just mail out the sketchbook when it was done, because again it was considered contraband, because it was made from composite materials found around the facility. All this paper was stolen copy paper from the library, and the book covers, the back and front, were made from a clipboard that he had sawed in half, and he bound it all together with wood glue and a strip of leather that he got from the Leatherworks shop. And yeah, in prison, you have your arts and crafts activities that you can sign up for, and he was able to get a strip of leather from one of the other inmates, and so he bound this book together. But seeing as how it was contraband, I couldn't just mail it out. I had to, piece by piece, just kind of mail it out to my sister as parts were done. Hold on, let me go ahead and flip through some of these pages. Some of these sketches might be pretty racy. Okay, I'm gonna just kind of remove two of them. All right. I hope I don't get too many thumbs down for this video, but anyway, here we go. Here's the cover. As you can see, it's like my scruffy face while I was in prison, and I wore like a little beanie that was given out to landscape crew, and I just wore that thing all the time. And yeah, this is more or less how I look like. And being in prison, like I just didn't eat all that much, so I was pretty svelte. I hope I'm using that word correctly, but I had lost a lot of weight. I was down to, I think my lowest was 170 pounds. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. And this sketch isn't actually part of the sketchbook. I think this came from a notepad. It was just like a random doodle I was just drawing, like out and around. And here's a sexy piece, and it's like I would draw like sexy ladies, and I would draw porn in prison in exchange for food items from commissary. And believe me, like I drew a lot for people, not just porn, but like things like portraits, like family portraits, or tattoo designs, or just I guess sexy ladies in general. And yeah, I drew a lot of porn in prison. But most of that porn I would go ahead and mail out, and my sister would put it up for auction because like a lot of the porn I was drawing was furry porn, so I would mail that out. And outgoing mail they don't examine, so I was pretty set there. So I'd mail it out, and my sister would put it up for auction, and that's how I would earn some of my money to like put on my commissary account, put it on my books. There's another scantily clad lady, big booty. And here's a scantily clad lowly being all patriotic. And it was part of my whole abolish the 2003 Protect Act because it's a stupid obscenity law that doesn't need to exist. Here's another scantily clad lowly. I'm going to get so many downvotes for these images. Oh, hey, another lowly. And I had to like when my sister moved out, like she had to go through, actually before I came back to the apartment, she had to go through a whole lot of my sketches to um, get all the pornographic images out of the apartment because didn't want to get caught up in the situation last year where they threw me back in prison for possessing my own pornographic drawings. And that's just a bullshit situation in and of itself where upon my release, I was given the go ahead to draw pornography for financial purposes, and that's what I was doing. But then they utilized the porn that I was drawing to find me in violation of my pornography ban because I'm not allowed to have pornography whatsoever. But they utilized my own drawings to just throw me back in prison, which is fucking bullshit. Anyway, here's a little doodle of me in my prison getup, the prison uniform, just saying, "Hey kids, prison sucks, and so does the government." I think we can all agree on that right now. Freaking government shutdown, just it's insane. There's just like a few random doodles, nothing much going on here. Just a weird, I guess you could like possibly call it some sort of weird mural. I think it looks pretty interesting. Oh yeah, sexy lady time. Underboobs? No, that's me just ogling this sexy lady drawing. And a panty shot. Yeah, you gotta dig panty shots. You know, just I draw them as as often as I can. You know, since I can't draw porn, like I try to draw like a um, I try to draw as lewd as I can get. Oh, hey, someone just jumped in the chat. Mogshot says, just the cleanest lines. Oh, thank you. Here's a female figure. Like, yeah, she has the face, and like I didn't draw any of the naughty bits. Another female figure drawing. And this, like, all these drawings that take place while I was in prison, like, this is where a lot of my anatomy just really started to, like, I don't know, like, it improved drastically because I'm in prison and there's, like, really nothing much to do. And fucking, I just spent a lot of time just sitting up in my bunk, just drawing, like, nonstop. And like being stuck in prison and being stuck with my thoughts, like it gave me a lot of time to just really practice my craft. And like I improved by leaps and bounds, and I think that is pretty well illustrated in the more recent Natus art that I had released from prison. Like a lot of the Natus, the really raunchy stuff that I had drawn in my Natus galleries, like the best stuff and the more recent stuff was actually drawn in prison. And it was in prison where like I like attained like a next level, and just drawing like forms and figures just off the top of my head. And it just comes from just having to be stuck in a cell and just drawing like almost at every moment you have like a spare, when you have time to spare, when you have time to kill. And there's a lot of time to just friggin' do whatever while you're sitting in there. Here's a lowly just holding hands with death. And I based this image off of a creepypasta that I had read like a long time ago. And the creepypasta is called Mr. Angel. And it alludes to like this young girl who is apparently dead, who's like well, you don't know she's dead, but you just kind of get the hint that she is, and she's talking to this angel. And then as the story unfolds, you realize that the angel is the angel of death. So it's like this is a common like well, not common, this is like an idea I go back to from time to time. And this isn't the first time I drew something somewhat like this. Unfortunately, that first image I drew back in Photoshop was back in 2013, I believe. And oh man, I wish I could have kept those digital scraps from recent employment. But yeah, what can you do? Mugshot says, "You're a great lineman. They have a lot of weight style." Oh, sweet. Thank you. Here's another lowly just lounging around, kicking her legs. Ooh, here's a buxom lady. Female figure sketch. Nothing much going on here. More female figures. Gun-toting lady. And this was done with like a colored ballpoint pen. And believe me, like colored pens are freaking hard to find in prison. So I was pretty lucky to like, I guess, I think it was someone who gave me like a colored pen just because like he appreciated my art so much, and I used it. What bit of nipplage there, but nah, whatever. Just kind of getting closer. This is me just practicing drawing faces, and my facial construction just improved a lot while I was behind prison walls, because you got hardly anything else to do. Here's some furry art, just messing around. Man, my anatomy got really tight. Here's some more furry-esque type stuff. Mugshot says, haha, that's cool. Thank you, Mugshot. It's me drawing more figures. This is like a rare, like artistic, like loli piece. Like usually when I draw lolis as like natus_01, they're just very raunchy and lewd. Mugshot says the femme furries have great poses. Thank you. Here's some more loli-esque material. I wonder if I should just switch my like a little avatar in the corner. This seems to be showcasing a lot of natus art. This is me just drawing like a lowly gymnast. Yeah, while I was in prison, it was just nothing but constant practice. And it really improved my ability to just bang these sketches out off the top of my head. Excuse me. Mugshot says, I'm pretty weak when drawing around the bicep and shoulder blade. Yeah, that area gets it gets me sometimes. Like oftentimes I find myself having to um, review like my artistic anatomy books or look at some of the muscle mags that I still currently have. Gonna have to like just kind of drop a lot of the muscle mags and everything, just because I'm gonna be having to move locations here pretty soon, fairly soon. Here's some more, just me playing around with poses and figure structure and body structure. And like comparing this prison sketchbook to a lot of my previous sketchbooks, it's like freaking like I don't know. It amazes me like how much like I improved just by having all this time to myself to just to fucking draw. Mugshot says GL on your next move, dude. Wait, you saying get lost? Are you telling me to abscond? As tempting as that sounds, like fucking that just end me back in prison. What is this? Oh, I was trying to like figure out what this pose was. It's like a gymnast slowly just kind of bending backwards while remaining on her knees. That seems difficult. And word says my house. Ah. Just kind of get a little closer in here. Yeah, during my last stay in prison over my drawings last year, I went ahead and drew like a bunch of very raunchy like lowly art for like this other inmate, and this other inmate like he kept my he kept my locker full. Like, oh my God, like I drew him so much lowly art, and I drew some lowly art just for myself, but I let him keep it as well. So, oh, I thought this might have been like a piece I forgot to send out, but no, there's no naughty bits. But anyway, yeah, I drew him a lot of lowly art, and like he paid for like a lot of the art that he asked for, and I let him keep a lot of the art that I was just more or less drawing for myself. Ooh, I got a message. Hold on. Yay! Ruriashino. But unfortunately, with that collection that I had left to him was discovered during his move or transfer to his final facility. And the final facility that he was moved to, like, they went through his stuff pretty thoroughly, and they found all the drawings. And all I know is that, yeah, they were probably destroyed, all of them. Part of me kind of wishes or hopes that maybe one of the prison guards was pervert as well and decided to keep some of them and possibly like post them later. I don't know. Mugshot says, that neck. This neck, I assume. This one's just a cartoony sketch. I think I already showed this one. Okay, moving on. Some cartoony-esque lowly faces. Ah, blue pen sketches. Yeah. Since this is a prison sketchbook, I wonder if I can post each of these pages as prison art on eBay and see how much I get. Here's a pretty badass, sexy demon chick. Oh, yeah. Cute little lowly face and a wicked demon face, vampire or something. That looks pretty cool. Oh, some of these pages are still bound together. Whoops. I also played around with some oil paints while I was in prison. And the only reason I got into oil painting in prison is because I had to take a art course that would allow me art supplies, and the drawing courses always got filled up pretty quick, and there are very few and far in between. So the only option I had left was painting. So I took painting, played around with oil paints for a while, and finally got my certificate after passing that class, and which gave me the go-ahead to just start ordering art supplies. And I was able to get a few art supplies. Oh my gosh, look at these faces. Especially that face. Drawing it off the top of my head. Like, oh my God, Blackhorse, what? How are you so good? Jeez. Oh man, I don't know. I just spent a lot of time in prison drawing. That's how it got so good. Chimmy Chucks has just entered the chat. He says the whole sex offenders being beaten up in prison is a meme. Oh, I guess that was the question. The whole sex offenders being beaten up in prison is a meme. Um, well, prison used to be different, like a way different, like 5 years before I got there. And when you're in prison, um, like you just deal with a lot of prison politics as a sex offender. And in prison, they just have one word for sex offender, which is chomo, which is short for child molester. And yeah, back in the day, like they got beat up a lot, but then recently, it's kind of come to a little more widespread knowledge that the majority of sex offenders in prison aren't even there for molesting children. They're just there for either, sure, like there are rapes, but then they're just there, people there just for child pornography, and that's the major majority of a lot of the sex offenders in prison, who are people who just downloaded child porn and who had never had contact with a minor. And what's sad is that there are fewer than, or not fewer, more than not, there are people in prison who don't even have like they're in there for child pornography, but no child pornography exists in their case. And what I mean by that is that the arresting authorities and the feds, who are corrupt enough to willfully manipulate a situation in order to, I don't know, get another notch on their belt. And it really does suck. And like, I believe that if like you, well, like I think it's already a thing, but like fucking, if you lie to a fed, you already get like you get prison time, like a certain amount of prison time. But if a fed like willfully lies and manipulates a situation in order to coerce like either a confession or a guilty plea, like fucking, why don't they ever go to prison? Like for the most part, just hear a lot of them just get a slap on the wrist and that's it. And that's just fucking double standard bullshit. I mean, like these lies and deceit were enough to like take away a man's like livelihood and ruin his career or um, uh, family support structure. And these guys who were responsible for that willful misconstruction, fucking nothing, nothing happens to them. I mean, it's just it just gets me upset sometimes. But anyway, that aside, I'm just gonna. Oh, let me. I just saw some of these papers. They have addresses and contact information on them, so I'm just gonna put them aside, just so. Don't want other people's contact info like getting released online. I better flip through this again. Yeah, I think we're good. Anyway, moving on. Oh, but yeah, like to answer Chimichuk's question, like once like a lot of the other inmates realize that a lot of people are in there just for pictures, they more or less kind of like leave them alone. But still, that the whole stigma is there. Um, that whole divide is still present, but not many people will just go ahead and get beat up for just downloading images. And kind of like sucks because there were like a few inmates in there not in there for child pornography, but then they, after like hearing some of the stories that some of us sex offenders had to share, it's like some of the other inmates realize like, oh damn, like fucking, I'm glad I'm just in here for drugs. Like I could have gotten locked up for 5, 10, 15 years because a lot of these inmates realized that they were more or less in that same boat. I won't like call them out or anything, but like fucking, like a lot of the other inmates in there for like other stuff like drug possession or firearms or things like that, they realize that they could have gotten a whole lot more time if they had been caught like downloading some of the porn that they were downloading, because a lot of these guys are like really into porn, and fucking like some of them have admitted that like yeah, some they arbitrarily had stumbled across or come in possession of child pornography, but they think they're lucky stars that they got the charges that they did get for either drugs, weapons, or some sort of other nefarious misdeed. Because in comparison, like if you get caught with child pornography, like the the amount of time you have to serve, it just far outweighs some of these other crimes that we think are just really heinous. And to, I guess, illustrate that even more is that someone who's guilty of actual molestation or rape serves little to no prison time whatsoever. But a person or an individual who downloads child pornography, like, gives up like 5, 10, 15, or maybe decades of their life in prison just for downloading some images. And it sucks because like fucking like when you're in prison and you like watch the news and you read the newspapers and you read about or hear about like people who commit like violent sexual assaults or molestations on children, they serve little to no prison time, and at the most it's like depending on the, I guess, severity or whatever, or like the they spend like maybe several months to a few years in prison, and I don't know, I don't know. There's just the whole system just needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. Anyway, guess I answered that question and more. Now I'm all depressed again. Whoops. I guess I wrote something here. I wrote, I had a dream that told me I would be receiving my release papers and getting released on July 24th. Well, that dream didn't come true. I also had another dream telling me I would be home again in 18 days. Today's July. Yeah. Like fucking when you're in prison, you have these dreams of just coming back home, and you latch onto them, and it and then when these dreams don't come true, like the dreams of freedom are like something that you really latch onto, and you hope against hope to just like wish that it does come true, but it doesn't. And that's why when you're in prison, you have no choice but to abandon all hope, because hope can drive you mad. It could drive you insane. It could cause you to do very stupid things. And believe me, like when I was in prison and stuck in a place of just like hoping that my time would somehow miraculously come to an end, and it never came to fruition. Like my mind went to some really dark places. Anyway, moving on. Don't want to dwell too much on the past. I should start making flyers and speeches to just go ahead and run for president, because there's a lot of issues I want to push. But all that aside, let's just get back to the drawings. I wrote something else here. It says, please God, get me out of prison and let me go back home to Vegas and the reservation. Set me free. Oh my God. Oh man. In some ways, I'm kind of still stuck there. Oh, looks like I wrote something else here too. Um, I want to go back home to Las Vegas right now. I want to be free to draw whatever I want and make money doing it. I want to change the world so no one has to suffer prison for nonviolent first time offenses again. Get me home right now so I can begin working on all these goals, please. So tired / bored of prison. This is back when my hair was still fairly short. I don't believe I've cut it since then. Looks like I wrote a little more here. Chewy Chuck says, "Shame about your situation. You'd be still a part of being an artist for another game. I know you were a dev of Skullgirls, I think. Well, I wasn't a dev, like that's a developer. I was an animator, and yeah, it was pretty cool that I got to work on it. I didn't get to work on it for long because I needed like more job security, so I was able to animate like a few moves, like a handful of moves for Parasol and Misfortune. And Misfortune was a blast to work on because she's such a unique character. But yeah, like I needed the job security and I had student loans to pay off, so I had to get like a job, like a day job at one of these other design companies here in Vegas, which paid me a very decent salary. But yeah, no more. Anyway, what did I write here? Bring justice to those who punish unjustly. Lady Justice wields a double-edged sword. Prosecutors and judges who willfully abuse the law to suit their own selfish needs behind the guise of protecting others need to be reminded of this fact. The impunity enjoyed by crooked prosecutors and judges is a farce which has germinated into a glaring blemish on today's American justice system and needs to be abolished in order to remedy the rampant judicial misconduct which plagues the American courtrooms. God damn, Prison Blackhorse. Oh, there's a address for prisoner visitation and support. And it's like a group of people who volunteer to visit inmates who don't get family visits. And I was interested in that because being all the way imprisoned in Texas, my family lives in Utah, and that's just too far for them to travel. And they don't make enough money to fly over by plane. And if they were able to save up that money, I wouldn't want them to visit me anyway because that's money that they could utilize for themselves. And I didn't want them to make that sacrifice because I know how hard their life is. And even though they wanted to come out and visit me so bad, and I wanted nothing more than to see them, it's just an environment that I didn't want them to see me in. And again, they have better uses for that money. Shit, I didn't think this sketchbook tour was gonna be such a downer. I haven't gone through this prison sketchbook ever since I got back. Oh man. Anyway, moving on. Oh wait, did I showcase this yet? There we go. Chibi Truck says, I think you can still be an animator for someone, maybe for a small indie game or a lowly game when your PO allows you to draw smut again. Well, it's not my PO, it's the courtroom, and I think I ought to get around to writing another letter just to clarify like why my pornography ban is bullshit. And well, I'm not going to use colorful language like that, but really just get the point across how it violates my First Amendment right to protected free speech material, you know, in found in pornography, and it negates my um, free speech rights as an artist, freedom of expression of art on that level too. So I ought to get around to writing another letter. And the reason I don't is just because I'm just so freaking busy trying to keep my head above water. Hey, here's a Natus, the little avatar that I've drawn for him, or the personality that I've drawn for him. There's me, and there's Beehawk. And there's like some sort of exchange going on between all of us. Oh, and there's Rule 34 Rocks. It, nothing much going on. There's a little lunatic sketch of me in my prison duds. Zap. What did I write here? It says, nobody knows when this story began. Huh. Guess me just playing around with kind of trying to write a deep story or something. And here's a little let's go with all of my pornographic pseudonyms and me walking together. And we're all dressed in prison in prison duds. So there's me up front, and to my right is Natus_01, because he was like the first pseudonym that I ever thought up. The second was Beehawk, and he's to my left. And after like all this bullshit went down and I still needed to make money, I came up with Rule 34 Rocks in the background. So if you look at this image, it kind of like has like a whole chronological like order to it. So first came me and Natus to my right, since more or less he's my right hand man. Then to my left is Beehawk, and then all the way in the back is Rule 34 Rocks, and he was someone who is thought up as a he was thought up out of necessity, because during this whole like bullshit with my ex and everything that was going on, like I needed a way to make money, and my ex didn't want to see me or any of my artwork ever again. So effectively, this is a time where she still had pretty solid control over me after all the fucking uh, emotional abuse and verbal abuse and everything. Like she had that much control over me to where she said that she didn't want me on the internet, or didn't want my presence to be on the internet ever again. She didn't want to see anything of me of the sort. So I obeyed her, you know. Like we were broken up at this point, but I went ahead and did what she asked, and I deleted all of my accounts, everything. I think I deactivated my Beehawk account, deleted my or deactivated my DeviantArt account, and all of my blogs, all that artwork, everything that I had worked on was just gone. But I needed money. So I invented Rule 34 Rocks. And then after everything was said and done, went to prison, you know, this and that. And after going to prison, that's when my ex reached out to my sister and apologized for all of her bullshit and just admitted that there was probably some other way we could have figured things out. It's just fucking too late, way after the fact. And it was after I came out, I reactivated a lot of my accounts. And unfortunately, all the DeviantArt stuff was gone, but somehow all the, like a lot of the Behawk stuff remained. So all I had to do was reactivate it and it was still there. But Chimichuk says, beware of the thoughts. Well, to be honest, she wasn't even that hot. You know, like, I can say it now that the reason I started going out with her is kind of like pretty much out of pity, you know, because she had such a hard life and like she was an artist from what I could remember, but she had fallen out of it, and I got her back into it, and she was drawing again, and I thought I could white knight, I guess. I thought I could save her, but in the end, it was just a very toxic relationship, and I didn't know it at the time. But yeah, it was hell. Anyway, moving on. It's a pretty cute looking face. Some more female figures. I love drawing you some female figures. I don't know if any of you have picked up on that. Chimichuk says, your abusive ex apologized after the whole ordeal. Like, she apologized when I was in prison. Like, I was like only a few weeks in prison. I called my sister, and my sister said, your ex sent me a message on Facebook, and she says she's sorry for like a lot of stuff. And she read me the whole message and like, oh man, fuck her. Oh my God. Yeah. And toward the message, she promised that she would never bother me or my sister ever again, and that she would just exist in her own corner of the internet. Oh, action lowly. Hells yeah. Ah, I denied everybody a panty shot. Too bad, everyone. More lowly-esque drawings. Lowly faces. Just doodling it up. Sakura Kinomoto says, how much did you share your drawings with others while you were in prison? I shared a lot of them, but not the really risky stuff. Like, yeah, like I drew like a lot of Natus art while I was in prison when I was in Texas, but I didn't share like a lot of that stuff. Like I just sent it back out. But when I went to prison a second time for being in violation for being in possession of my own pornographic drawings, like there was a inmate there who I shared like all of my lowly art with, because he commissioned me to do a lot of it. And from last I heard, like he sent me a letter recently, and he's doing pretty good. Here's some more female figures. Sakura Kinomoto asks, wait, what? You were in jail with one of your commissioners? Yeah, like when I went back in the second time last year for again being in possession of my own pornographic drawings, um, just kind of telling other inmates what I was sort of in there for, just at the same time still trying to be hush hush about it. And I let it slip that I was in there for just for drawing too too well, for drawing, for being an amazing artist or whatever. Like my artwork was dangerous, and that's pretty much how they painted it while I was in court. Is that my art was a danger to society or something? And I don't know, like fucking the prosecutor was a fucking god dang bitch. But anyway, when when this other inmate began, like he got a little intrigued, and then he asked what my pen names were. It's like, oh yeah, I have several pen names. There was Bhawk, Natus _01, Rule 34 Rocks, and then me, of course. And then I riddled off a few others that I haven't released just yet or made public. But he later on, when we were just kind of in our, like he came over to my cell, and then we had like a little private conversation. He said like, I know one of those names that you had listed, and yeah, he was a fan of Natus _01. So yeah, and then that's when he started commissioning me to do some of that art. And Sakura Kinomoto says that top left drawing is dangerously adorable. What, this one? Oh yeah, she is. Ah yes, some more furry-esque stuff. Are we going to be able to finish this sketchbook? Yeah, I guess we'll be able to finish this. Not too much far to go. Here's me just drawing like random animals off the top of my head. Yes! Amy Rose. Everyone's favorite female hedgehog. Sakura Kinomoto says, Sonics! And here's a Rouge. Man, I would draw her head and ears really big. I don't know why, I just did. I liked it at the time, but now looking back at it, it's like, oh man, I drew the head and the ears way too big. So I pulled that back like recently. There's some goofy cartoony dogs and cats. Cartoony ladies. I like drawing cartoony proportions sometimes. That face is pretty cute. Yeah, she's cute. No, there's a face on this side. Here's me drawing somewhat macabre type stuff, like Lowly being surrounded by wicked ghosts or demons. Why is one eye darker than the other? Oh, that's how I drew it. Different colored eyes. Some more female figures. kind of like a sci-fi loli and some sort of high-tech suit or something. Big breastises. No naughty bits, of course. Oh man. Oh, look at that face. I like that, those eyes, or that expression. Pretty cute. Okay, this is like the last little bit here that I hold in my hand. Just some female faces. Cute lowly face. Eyes. Profile lowly face. Me just drawing like more macabre stuff, like a weird demon guy. This looks like a kind of like a vampire from possible vampire from Blade 2, because he's got that hinged, like separated jaw thing. Zombie loli or vampire, I don't know which, either or. Oh, yeah, it's a zombie loli because she's got no torso. Like those are just ribs down there. Oh my god. Some sort of like either more macabre or ghostly paranormal loli, or just Village of the Damn loli. There we go. Random doodle of a boy and his dog. Kind of like a comic thing going here, but didn't have any like story to it. These are just like loose sketches. What is this? Oh, okay. I can kind of see what it is. Okay, like these are just like a couple hands in prayer, but over here in the bottom, you see a foot grabbing like a toe or key with the toes, and here we have like I assume that was going to be like a lowly figure behind like these um, steel bars, and she's like reaching out with her legs and her toes to just grab this key that is slightly out of reach for her hands. She's very flexible and ingenuitive. And here's another incompleted lowly-esque sketch. Just a raunchy lowly sticking out her tongue, and didn't bother like completing the rest of it. It was probably going to be something very, very obscene. I can only imagine what she was going to be looking toward or at. But I think it was going to be a bukkake scene. But never got around to finishing it. Just a demon doing like a superhero pose of some sort. Just me just drawing some feet, because what artist doesn't need more practice drawing feet? reaching the end here. And base is the final page. Just go pan through it again, make sure everyone gets a good look. And that completes another sketchbook on this sketchbook tour. Glad y'all could stop by, take a look, take a gander. And I appreciate all those who participated in the chat. It's always awesome interacting with all of you out there, fans of my work or people who are just have some sort of interest. So thanks go to Mugshot, Chimichaks, and Sakura Kinomoto. And again, thanks to all those who watch and all that good stuff. And again, if you want to support my artwork and videos, I do have a Patreon. I also have a GoFundMe. Check out a lot of my free artwork on my blog or my other art form websites. All the relevant links I have just talked about are all in the description section below. And hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a like. Hit that thumbs up button. Share this video, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell because I'm uploading new videos or generating content on a weekly basis. And but to be honest, just to I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep this schedule next week because I believe I'm still being evicted. I'm going to call my landlord one last time to see if that's still the case because I've been calling around a whole bunch of these other apartments and I am unable to find one within my price range that'll let me move in because, man, I'm I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel here, but I'm still trying. I'm still trying to keep my hopes up. But yeah, depending on how things go, I might be homeless for a little bit. So next week, don't expect anything to be uploaded. But I'll see what I can do. I'm still hoping for the best. I'm still maintaining a positive attitude, more or less. I did slip a little bit, I think 2 days ago, but just getting back up there. And got to keep that positive energy, got to keep that positive flow, and just got to keep it in mind that there's something right around the corner for me. Like something's going to turn around. So just got to keep that mindset, keep that mantra, like what if everything works out? And stop worrying about how things might go wrong and just start thinking, what if everything works out? And yeah, what if it does? So anyway, yeah, until I do like another video, well, I plan to do one just to like outline like what it is I'm going through. So until then, I shall check y'all later. Sweet. Bye.